Um, well, mainly I've been stuck a little bit
Mm.
in GM4. I got up to GM3, dropped down GM4, and for like the past three splits, I was just like stuck. So I don't know if I was doing something wrong on top of me participating in OD.
Mm.
So um, I don't know. Like I want to be able to perform at a higher level.
Right. Right.
So whenever I don't really VOD myself as much as I should, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
And the last time I had coaching was like back in Overwatch 1 when I first hit Masters. It
Uh-huh.
was it was a while ago.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. So your goal is just that we need to break the plateau where you're at right now. I'm looking at your form. It says
Right.
contenders, trials, short term, GM1, top 500. Makes sense.
Right.
Why is the goal for contenders trials? You just want to be pro, something that you've been thinking about for a while, something recently that you've kind of been aiming for, or what?
Overwatch has been like a game I've kind of been passionate about for like the past 6 years. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to like uh make a name for myself
Yeah.
in the game,
Yeah.
whether it be like just having that esports profile at least, just knowing that I have improved from where I started to making it to at least close to the top.
Sure. Sure. Where did you start? Where did you start with Overwatch? Way back
Uh,
in the day.
it was on console. Like I think a few months after release, like around the first Christmas event was when I started.
Okay. Okay.
So, it, yeah, console when Overwatch League first came out, I was just watching it constantly and trying to like transfer what I'm watching into the console experience. It was not working out.
Yeah, I
Like,
can't imagine.
like I think I peaked like 3.2 on
That's
console,
not terrible.
and during like the goats meta on console, it didn't exist.
Oh, I can
Nobody played
imagine.
goats on console. It was
Hmm.
wild, and
That's
I
funny.
wanted to try it so bad.
That's funny. That's funny. So, what made you transition to PC? When did you transition?
Uh, mainly, mainly for the esports part of it. On top of my friends at school, they were all swapping to PC,
Mm, mm.
so I wanted to start playing. And the first time I started, I just started on like this really like potato laptop,
Huh.
and I couldn't get like good enough frames on it. I think I would get like 60 max on low settings on that thing, and it was like the lowest resolution scale. Like all the settings were just complete garbage quality.
Oh, jeez.
It was really bad. It just resorted to me playing Moira
That's funny.
only.
That's funny. That's funny. And now you're hit scan. What a console Moira main into a GM PC hit scan.
It's a
So how
bit
did that
crazy.
transition happen?
Uh, mainly, mainly watching the pros and the streamers. Like I know Defran, someone I look up to like very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Like very mechanically skilled, and then completely reformed from being this whole toxic weirdo to now being down to earth guy, doesn't really get mad at anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just main person I look up to. Then watching all these other players just be completely crazy at the game, like proper rookie season, going from like gets rookie of the year and MVP.
Yeah.
Like it's things like that that just, and I know I have like the potential myself to be at a level like that.
Well, how do you know that? Based off of what?
Just based off of the way I'm able to perform, not consistently, but
Mm-hmm.
like on some days it's just like it clicks and I'm absolutely crazy out of my mind. I just diff top 500 tracers and I'm over here like, wow, where is this coming from? Why can't I do this all the time?
Right. 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 What do you think that inconsistency comes from?
Probably probably my personal health. I definitely don't get enough sleep, as most people don't.
I'm seeing that in
Um,
your form. 6 hours.
yeah,
It's not a lot.
yeah,
Okay.
it's not. It's slight insomnia issues.
Ah, got it.
Yeah,
Got it. Got
so
it.
that kind of messes with my sleep schedule. Then
Got
there's
it.
the physical health. Like not in shape really,
Mm-hmm.
so my energy's kind of low
Right.
most of the days.
Right. Right. Well, it's hard, because especially with you, if you have work or school and even just training Overwatch, right? Like that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, right? So then
Right.
sometimes it's hard to think of putting energy elsewhere as being indirectly as what will allow you to have more energy and the thing that you're mostly concerned about. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It's like, if I wanted to get good at X, shouldn't I just do X? Sometimes
Yeah.
yes, sometimes no. So I guess looking through this here, your sleep, you're not as in shape. I didn't bring this up as issues. You brought these up as issues. So I
Yeah.
assume that there has been some effort in the past as to remediate these issues.
Yeah,
If so, what
definitely.
does that look like?
Um, well, for one, I try to put an alarm on my phone to
Mm-hmm.
like remind myself you need to go to sleep. Turn everything off. Put everything to the
Backwards
side.
alarm.
Right. Just put
Sure.
everything away and lay in bed and close your eyes.
Sure.
As for my physical health, I started getting to boxing.
Ah,
That's
nice.
that's something that's been
Nice.
like not even like I don't really watch it. It's just like the action itself kind of feels feels good for me as like a workout. Just getting moving, just
Yeah,
getting moving
yeah.
at
Well, you don't have to
least.
follow it to like the action of it. I mean, people are always asking me, especially back in the day when I was teaching a little bit of MMA. They're like, "Oh, did you see the fight?" I'm like, "No, I just
Right.
I don't really follow it that much." But yeah, okay,
Yeah, I mean, I watch clips every now and then
sure,
of like big UFC fighters, but I don't.
sure. I look at physical health like that a lot, like Overwatch training. Like if somebody comes up to me and says, "I want to be in shape," I look at that as the same thing as somebody coming up to me and saying, "I want to be Grandmaster." Um, there's some differences, right? Like I think everybody should aim to be in shape, but not everybody needs to be Grandmaster. However, one of the
Right.
similarities is that when people come up to me and say Grandmaster, the first thing that I'm going to ask them is be like, with what? On what? Right? Because if
Yeah.
some people are like, well, I don't care. I just want to get Grandmaster. And I can already tell you that that's not going to work. That's not going to be sustainable. So if
Hmm.
somebody comes to me and says, I want to be in shape, I'm going to ask them, okay, doing what? What shape? In what regard are you going to be putting your health emphasis? Or do you enjoy lifting weights? Do you enjoy running? Do you enjoy I guess circuits, like different like plyometrics? Do you enjoy a sport? Do you enjoy, like you said, boxing, kick, cycling, spinning? Do you enjoy any sort of activity, right?
Yeah.
And so if they don't know the answer to that, then I guess that to me is the priority, because ultimately I think there was that Calvin. You ever heard the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes? I assume yes.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah. Okay. So it was like one of the comic strips is like the dad goes, how do I get in shape? Well, as adults just take fun and make it pain, and that's working out, right? We don't like that. That's working out is just oh, we don't we're, instead of having fun, we're gonna do something that's painful or frustrating. And to me, it's like a little bit like that. Like working out is not always gonna be fun all the time, but we should try and frame it and phrase it in a way to where it's more enjoyable. So for me right now, it's generally heavy lifts,
Hmm.
low, not many sets. I don't do a lot of sets, but heavy lifts, and I sprint a lot, and I take a lot of walks. I really actually enjoy that. Like it's actually not a chore to do that. There's been times in my past where working out felt like a chore, and it was honestly really hard to sustain that, even to somebody who's been as active as I am, as long as I have been. And so for
Right.
you, whether it's boxing and fill in the blank, there's dozens of things. Find what you enjoy. Find what's less of a chore, so that being in shape is not something that you have to grind and sweat and be miserable on the way to, because like ultimately that's not sustainable. We want to do and also like the way you approach it as well. Like let's not aim for being like Muhammad Ali. Let's just focus on just being better than where we were like the previous month.
Right.
So keep that up. I encourage you to keep that up. And the same thing goes for health as well, in terms of, health as in diet, right? Find what's attainable and better for you, even if it's not perfect. We need something
Yeah.
that's like you should never ever go on a diet. You should instead find ways to improve your quality of eating in a way that's sustainable for you? Do you have a favorite fruit? Do you have a favorite vegetable? Is there something that's more healthy than what you're doing right now that you actually enjoy? Okay, lean into that for right now. Replace something with something else. And I'm sure that these are things that you're familiar with, but I think they're just good reminders for me as well.
Right.
Yeah, so when it comes to sleep, though, because that's another it's another ball of yarn to follow. What have you tried with sleep? You said you set an alarm. Okay, so you're talking about you're on the game, grinding, or doing something else. Your phone alarm goes up. Okay, time to go lie down in bed.
I try to.
Right.
I tend to get distracted. I tend to get distracted very easily.
Distracted while you're in bed, or when the alarm goes off?
A little bit of both. It just depends on the day.
Okay.
So if I'm doing something at the moment and the alarm goes off, sometimes I'm not able to immediately just stop what I'm doing and immediately go to bed. So
it's kind of useless at that point.
I just right. So it's like okay, I'll just put it to the side and I'll try to remember it later, and then I'll lose track of time. And then on the days where I actually am able to just shut everything down, get in bed, then my body is just like, you're not tired. so I'm just kind of laying there real awkward, staring in the dark, like, what do I do?
Yeah. See, one thing that I've learned, and this is super, super annoying, but that, like, especially as you get a little bit older, sleep has to be almost like a routine rather than like a switch. When you're like 6 years old, you're like, all right, time for bed. And you know, sometimes you could just flip the switch. I actually even struggled with this as a kid. Did you ever go to bed as a kid and just like sitting there in bed for like half an hour and just think and like do stuff in your brain, or was that just me?
It was always like because like the parents would set a bedtime.
Yeah.
So like as a kid, 8:30 bedtime. I'm just laying in bed like 8:30.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I was sitting there and looking at my clock, be like, all right, 9, you know, still awake, you know.
Yeah, just counting down the time.
Yeah. So I think maybe even for kids, it's something that you want to kind of establish a routine for, because when it comes to like your bodies are creatures of routine. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to be inconsistent with when we sleep, right? Or as much as we possibly can. And then the other thing is also that you kind of almost need to warm yourself up, like for physical activity, but cool yourself down for sleep. And it doesn't have to be some big elaborate 6-hour preparation cycle with, you know, red light and, you know, having cooling baths and then, you know, Inya humming to herself in the background, you know, on your iPhone speaker. But just something has to, like, we have to break it down slowly, because if you're going straight from like a high intensity thing like Overwatch or anything else and then try to just go down and lie down, yeah, that's not going to work. What I would recommend is, again, like the health, like the fitness thing, what is a quote unquote routine that you could get into? Do you enjoy reading? I love reading. Reading has been the new thing for me for like the last year. That's really helped my sleep initially falling, because I really enjoy reading. So what I do is I go, okay, bedtime, go brush my teeth, you know, shower, whatever. And then I'm going to go sit in bed for like an hour with a book. And that's helped me fall asleep a lot easier because I enjoy reading. Do you like, not could be corny, but showers, baths? Do you enjoy listening to music? Do you like enjoy listening to podcasts? Do you enjoy taking a little walk? I mean, honestly, you could probably even get away with like, some people might shoot me if I say this, but watching something with like on your phone, right? Something relaxing or interesting, or a show that you enjoy with a blue light filter or whatever. That is probably better than stopping Overwatch and going right to bed, because that's probably gonna be more relaxing.
Right.
I guess for you, it's just like we need to create some sort of routine that says, hey, we're getting ready for going to bed. Our intensity is winding down. You need to kind of get in the habit of doing that. And again, like I said, which of those things is going to be easy for you to do? Because we don't want to be like, all right, you have to be perfect. This is exactly how sleep structure should look like, because you're not going to be able to stick with it, right? If you say I have to get 9 hours of sleep every single day, I have to go to bed at this time with a candle burning and whatever, that's just not going to happen, right? So what's sustainable for you right now? And it's the same thing as health. Music. What is it?
So like music, definitely.
Okay, well there you go. Listen to some music. You know, whatever you enjoy, whatever is most enjoyable for you, then I would do that and try, and even if it's just, let's just say a 15-20 minute routine, just 15-20 minutes. and start with that. See if that helps a little bit. It's not going to be amazing, right? It's not going to be night and day, no pun intended, but it's going to be, I'm certainly it will help better than what we're doing right now. It's a good step in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I also respect that you recognize this as being a priority, because you're right. There are a lot of players out there that can get to pro without doing this, but it's only a matter of time before it catches up with them. And I've seen it. And what it does. So whether you get to pro or not, this is going to be a worthwhile time investment. I promise you.
Right. Like, I'm seeing it this early.
Yeah. Especially when you're playing something so mechanically intensive, right? Like, you have to be on your A game.
Like, always focus. Just full thinking about everything. Especially when I'm playing Tracer, like, low health. Trying to figure out when's the right time. Who I gotta go on.
Right.
What angle I need to come from.
Right. It's not just the mechanics, right? It's also the quick thinking at the same time. Like, there isn't any game or any experience I've ever found like this, like Overwatch. That's that complicated. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So good luck. Keep me updated with how that goes, and probably more important than anything else that we talked about the rest of this review, for you. Remember, the small and sustainable. That, like, for all three of those little categories that we talked about. Okay. So what do you hope to get out of the session? How to identify my problems as a player and isolate them so I can fix them. Okay, that's good to hear. You talked a little bit about, I don't self-VOD review enough. Well, again, we're kind of bringing up one of those things that you feel like I should be doing, but I'm not doing. Why do you think self-VOD review is important?
Just being able to notice the issues from an outside perspective, because it's easier to find a problem when you're looking top down than it is when you're actually in the moment. The problem that I have when I do self-VOD review is that in some moments, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be like. Like, even when I'm not even looking at it as it's me playing, what does this player do here to generate value?
Right.
So I kind of get in that headspace of,
sure,
I don't know.
Right.
But that's not an answer that I like saying. I don't like saying to myself, I don't know what to do.
No. I agree. I mean, I think also as well, like, I think if you want to get in the habit of self-VOD review, more often than not, it might not be so much as you come up with clear solutions and clear answers, although hopefully that comes out over time. But the best case scenario would be to look at that and come up with ideas to try. So if you look at that situation, you're like, okay, this didn't work. I don't really understand why. I'm not really sure what I would do. We'll come up with an idea of what you would do differently, even if you're not sure if it's better. Be like, I wonder if I did this instead, because there's so many players out there that have succeeded without coaches, and oftentimes without even really a lot of knowledge. Most of that just comes from just grinding the game over and over again. But ultimately, you need to kind of be able to, like, try stuff out to know if it's going to work, right? How did we learn Overwatch in the first place, right? Somebody tried something and figured out, wow, that works, right? And so, like, ultimately that kind of has to be your goal. And that's just like a good learning habit for any hero that you play, right? So obviously if you come out of this review, you'll have some fundamentals, some ideas of what you need to work on in the short term, some things probably you'll understand better for the long term. But there will still be times where you don't know the answer, and don't treat that as a bad thing. Treat that as like, an opportunity to experiment and then learn better. Because that's what you need to do to be able to succeed. Just, I don't know if that's good. Well, go try it, right? Like if you're not willing to experiment and lose, half a dozen games, then you're not going to be able to. You don't deserve to climb better, right? It's like if you're not willing to invest your money, then you're not going to have a retirement fund, right? So like if you're not willing to risk a little bit, then you're not going to be able to improve. And the difference between financial investment and Overwatch investment is it doesn't matter if you lose 20 games, right? You can just go right back and re-queue. This literally doesn't matter. It's not even like a physical sport where like, we lost the game, we have to try again next week. No, it's like you could just re-queue, right? Yeah, so there's no downside to it at all. Outside of a little bit of ego, which, if your ego is big enough, then you care enough about your own play to where you're not concerned about, losing a few. But yeah, I think self-foddery is a double-edged sword where it can be a good thing, but I would be very careful about how often you do it. Don't obsess over it. Maybe it's a couple times a week, and the goal is to think of things to try and or to give yourself little goals to work at. not to go, why did I lose this game? You know, that's not helpful. Just figure out what you need to do better. That's all. Or what do you need to try? Do you have any questions so far?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. So hero pool, tracer cast, sojourn / flex. Does that just mean like you're just a little bit of everything in addition to the hit scan?
Yeah, those are like the comfort picks that I usually start off with, and then if I need to swap, then I'll just go to whatever we need.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Obviously, like specialization is generally going to be better when it comes to like learning and mastering things, but that can change on meta to meta. Just be careful of how thinly you spread yourself. So if I were to like look at your career profile, would it be like 25, 14, and then like 2, 3, 1, that's fine, but just make sure there's a real heavy leaning into the heroes that you enjoy. Especially if you're looking to get into contenders and trials, you don't have to be a cookie cutter hit scan, but you do need to be good at a handful of heroes, right? If that makes any sense.
Right.
Okay. What's your training schedule like right now? In terms of like, not like your schedule, you get up and you check that off the list, but how often do you generally play per day? Do you have any days where you take off and so on?
As for the game itself, it's a little bit on and off. Like at this point, it's kind of like having that inspiration outside of scrims, or well, not inspiration, more like motivation outside of scrims to actually play the game itself.
Okay.
Individually, I do aim train a lot, but that doesn't really help the whole game sense thing. So
sure. Well, let's start with that. What do you do with aim training right now?
With aim training, I do a specific playlist, one of the voltaic playlists, just the fundamentals to get kind of warmed up with my mouse control.
How long does that take?
It takes about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how long I want to go. Okay.
And then do you do anything after that before jumping into ranked?
When I hop into Overwatch, at this point I pretty much always start with it's a workshop code that IOStucks made not too long ago. So I've been using that a lot.
What are your thoughts on that one?
I'd say it's got a lot of positives, slight negatives for, I guess, inexperienced players, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because, well, once the speed ramps up and then they can't, and then they'll start to get frustrated, like, why can't I hit these?
It's weird for projectile as well, I've noticed.
Yeah, that too. Because, like, I mean, there's the option of the projectile speed ramping up with the player speed, or you could turn that off.
Right.
But
it's a tool,
sometimes.
I guess.
Yeah, right.
It's a tool. It's like it has its gaps, and I don't think there is anything in Overwatch because even I'm like one of the tryhard FFA guys, but even that, like, especially at a certain rank, if you're in there with a bunch of diamonds and plats, it's might as well just Q arcade at that point. So I don't think there is a perfect aim training tool. Let's talk about warm up though. I want to actually stream this here because I think it might find this helpful. So the way I look at warm up is I see 3 categories, 3 things that your warm up needs to be accomplishing. 1, it needs to be physically warming up. So in other words, when you're actually warming up, like you want to be physically warm. You need blood flow to your hands, you need blood flow to your brain, you need blood flow to your arms, your body. You don't want to be cold. Have you ever played with cold hands before? It sucks.
I just did this morning.
Right, it sucks. You feel literally sluggish, like you're just like lagging behind, and that's normal. So you want to be actually physically warm. This is actually fire. I bet you didn't even know it. I mean, I am indeed a professional artist. You know a little bit about that. But yeah, this is fire, and this implies warmth. So we want physical warmth, right? The next thing with the warm up is like more of a mental side of things, where we want, you want your brain kind of a little bit more alert than it was initially on. So our brains, are very flexible in terms of like what we can and we'll be able to focus on. However, unless we're something that is perceived as immediate danger, sometimes it takes a little bit for us to get alert. So what we do with our mental warm-up is we're just basically practicing getting in the motion of this is what we're looking for, this is what's important, wake up, this is what we want you to do. Because as you've probably learned, mechanics is a lot more mental than it is physical. Like you could quadruple your sensitivity, and within probably a couple of weeks, your mechanics would be almost as good as they were before. There's good and bad sensitivities, but ultimately you could give a good player in pretty much any sensitivity, and they're going to have pretty halfway decent aim. It's going to take them a little bit to adjust, but that's because it's all brain. It's all brain. The brain has to adjust. The brain, the eyes, the brain, that kind of communication that's going on between there, that pattern needs to kind of warm itself up. You need to get comfortable moving the game and feeling the game beyond just being physically warmed up. And then this is a brain, okay? So right there's your brain, all right? And then if we delve, I think, even deeper, and I don't want to classify this one as a completely different category, but I definitely think it's something worth pointing out. For a warm-up, I like to use the concept of a trigger. So have you ever watched sports before and they have like the NBA player before they shoot a free throw, they like slap their knees, or the MLB player before they, go up to at bat, they tap the four corners of the plate and then like clack their cleats with the bat. You know what I'm saying? They have like a little routine. And the reason why they do that, some of it's, you could argue is superstition, but from a mental performance standpoint, having a little routine like that is actually a really good thing. It's called a trigger. And what a trigger is it basically is a way to tell your brain, not just to get your brain generally warmed up, but to be very specifically warmed up. And now is the time for us to perform. Now is the time for us to work. So it puts it in a heightened focus state because your brain at that point in time should be used to this type of training and the efforts that's going to be put under. So it's kind of like a kick in the pants, right? A spurs in the back of the horse where you're saying, okay, get ready. We're about to really get going. And over time, you'll see people that are able to quicker speed up that focusing process to where it requires less and less time for them to be able to quickly snap your fingers. Like a baseball player, when they go up to bat, doesn't have 5 minutes to get their brain ready and focused on the millisecond that they have to swing the bat. They have a couple of seconds as they're walking up to the plate. So for you, your warm-up may be not just physical and just a broad mental, but it may be and it needs to be a very specific trigger that now is the time to focus. We're not just playing the game, we are focusing. We're giving our absolute effort. We have specific goals in mind. We need to be fully turned on, and that's what you need your warm-up to be. And that's going to demand you actually having a warm-up that's a little bit challenging, or that demands your full attention. And it also is a warm-up that is going to be used to channeling you into an intense focused state. So if you have a warm-up and then you go into ranked and you're just kind of like chilling, you're not really trying, then that's not going to, you're not really triggering that enhanced focus state, right? You need to consistently, the first couple of ranked games, especially, I'm giving it as much focus as I possibly can, like totally tuned in for that warm-up to actually do its job, if that makes sense. Does this all make sense so far?
Yeah, it does.
So then for you need to find a warm-up that checks all these boxes. Now, there's a little awkward little box down here we're going to add in, and this is called aim training, right? And this is not a warm-up. The aim training is specifically, okay, we're warmed up, but we're going to continue to focus on our mechanics because that's the purpose of what we're doing here. And what you can argue here is that aim training is generally what you do in warm-up. It's just a little bit longer, a little bit harder. Now, you said when you played your Voltaic playlist, that was taking like an hour, right? I can be honest with you, that is way too long for you to be physically, mentally, and trigger warming up. You should not need that long. And if anything, that's going to be taking some of the intensity out of the training that should be following. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Unless you have something physically wrong with you or mentally you're a little bit slower to warm up, which might be, like there are a lot of unique cases, then that's generally going to be too long. Let's say your room has a tendency to be cold or you have a tendency to be very groggy when you first wake up, you might need longer time warming up. But most people should try to aim for, no pun intended, for a shorter warm-up period of time so that doesn't take the intensity away from the training that should be following. The ranked training, that's the most important part of the day. Now, if you were specifically aim training, like let's say you were trying to improve your mechanics on a specific hero, then that would go, okay, warm up, warm up, warm up, right? We're triggered now, right? And then we go into our aim training and we're really focused on training hard on our aim at X hero, right? Because this would be the goal, not ranked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have to kind of differentiate between the two. So for you, I guess my question is, how much of this is aim training? How much of this is warm up? And then I'm a little bit, my question for you is how much value in terms of the raw aim training do you get out of the playlist that you're currently doing? Because it's very easy to get into a routine because it's comfortable, but it may or may not be providing continual benefit for you. So you tell me.
I know that in some aspects of my raw aim, I'm lacking. So when I'm playing characters like Ashe, Cass, Widow, there are times where it's like I'm whiffing a bunch.
Got it.
But like when it comes to like the tracking characters, that's where more of my skill lies.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. I worked with an aim coach about a month ago, and he was saying stuff like Kovacs has diminishing returns for pro Overwatch players because of the way the game feels. So what I would do for you is this kind of goes back to the self-VOD review thing. If it may be good for you, it may not. Something like just a sheer Vaxta or the IOStex code, or even if a tryhard deathmatch lobby that's actually halfway decent is available, even that may be something worth trying. I don't know the answer for you. I don't have the ego to tell you this is what's going to work, this isn't what's going to work, but I think it's at least worth experimenting with, especially if your goal is to be contenders, trials, whatever. It's probably worth putting in a little bit of time to try and experiment to see what works best.
Right.
One thing I will say unequivocally is that you definitely could experiment with cutting down on your aim training time so that your time is a little bit more efficiently used. Because obviously the most important time of the day is the ranked time. And if that's, you're playing the equivalent of like 3 ranked games as part of your warm-up, then that's going to take some of the intensity out by the time that you actually get there. So lots of little details here. Do you have any questions with any of this so far?
No, it's making sense.
Okay. It's making sense, but there is a lot to kind of like juggle. So don't worry if you can't get it all at once. It's like the health thing, right? Like pick one of those things that you think stands out that you need to experiment with, and then go experiment with it and let me know how it goes, right?
Okay.
Treat it like a scientist. We're not sure what the solution is for you because everyone's different, right? But these are some things that as your Overwatch doctor, I'd prescribe trying and seeing how it feels. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so training schedule, when you get into ranked on the average day, what's that usually looking at in terms of time investment?
Well, like I said, depends. So my usual philosophy was like, okay, I'm gonna play until I lose like 2 games, and then I must get off, take a break.
Okay.
More recently, it's just been, I'm gonna do a full split, try to win 5, and then get off.
Okay.
Which can really vary the time that I play.
Right. Which isn't probably optimal. If you were to have like an optimal training structure from what you know or what you can guess, what do you think that would look like?
That is a good question.
And it's something that you need to answer. Can you imagine trying to be like an Olympic athlete and not having any idea how you should be setting your training block?
Yeah, that would be real rough.
Now obviously the analogy isn't perfect because obviously there's a lot of contenders and trials players have been able to get it through sheer just playing, right? But that doesn't mean that's the optimal way of doing it, right? So think about it. Use your gut. What do you think? Let's see how accurate your completely random guess is. Because I have some opinions on this one.
Probably just play as much as I can without having multiple periods of autopiloting through like one game.
I mean, that's it. That's a great way to, that's perfect right there. That's perfect. Now, it's a lot like everything else that we've talked about where that's the goal. How we get there differs from person to person, but we have some pretty good guesses. For me, the 4-hour rule is generally the ballpark estimate. For you, it might be 3. For you, it might be 5 before you start to autopilot it. For you, you might really benefit from taking quick breaks between each game, or taking a 5-minute break after every 3 or 4 games, and then continue to do that over and over and over again. It might be that you don't need a break at all. You can play all the way through for 3 or 4 hours straight, and then you just call it right there. I don't know, but that's the general area that you need to be aiming for. And then from there, like the warm-up, like the fitness, the sleep, the health, the diet, and so on, you need to find out how can you tailor that to make it best for you, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. The goal is like the 3 to 4 hour, 3 to 5 hour, wherever in that general ballpark of intense focused practice with breaks in some way, shape, or form, however long you want to do it, however you want to structure that. And then you need to find out exactly how that would look, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you thinking is going to be your first experiment with that? Where are you going to start?
Mostly optimizing my warm-ups.
Sure. Okay. And then what's our general ballpark for playtime for right now? What do you want to try first?
I'll try the 4 hours.
Sure.
And then try to gauge off of that. Maybe after 2 or 3 sessions, if I need more, if I can go more, yeah. If I need less, then
sure. I'd give it a week if you can, just a little bit longer, just to make sure that there's no other like extenuating circumstances, like lack of sleep, or that might give you skewed results. But yeah, try that with some breaks, see how it goes. Okay. Any questions with that?
No.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. Do you have any questions about the form as a whole before we actually move on to the gameplay?
Not right now.
Okay. If anything comes up, let me know. We talked about a lot of stuff, but obviously if this is what's the priority for you besides just raw playing the game, then that needs to be fixed, right? To kind of look at things holistically here. So let's take a look here. I haven't coached Route 66 in a long time. Wow. So is this all Tracer?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We'll take a look here. So GM Tracer. So have you had any goals or anything you've been working on recently with Tracer, or not as much?
As of recently, not really.
Okay.
I know before it was mostly mechanics based, because I've always been like a heavy work on mechanics guy. And playing Tracer, doing things off of certain timings has kind of been a thing that's been in the back of my mind a lot of the time. Like, okay, I'll go in after tanks crash or whatever.
Yeah.
Try to look for the back line.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's mostly been mechanical. Like, I know I've been working on my movement a lot.
Your 80-80 strafing or blink movement?
My 80-80.
Okay. Sounds good.
As of when I should match them, when I should work to dodge.
Right. Did you see my collab with Sev?
I have not. I have watched the one with Hydron.
Got it. Okay, because you were using some of the terminology that Sev was using, so that might be useful for you. But yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay, any questions? Or are you ready to go?
So actually, with this specific like comp matchup,
sure.
With we're running the Zarya, they're running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I know that most of the time, the way I thought about it when I first saw their comp, I was like, I should just match the Tracer because I can't really stop ball's rotation, but I can stop Tracer from diving with them.
Yes.
So is that the most optimal thing I can do with this comp, or should I be looking to?
You can. That's fine. I mean, if you have pulse or your BAP center in a safe location or have trance or something like that, then you can be more aggressive. But that can work. Yeah, that can work. This is a scrim I'm seeing from the stats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you could do whatever you want here. You can also pressure and assassinate with their Brigzen or their Hanzo. If ball does play on an angle that you can pressure, then that's pressurable as well. I think a lot of Tracer for me is about finding the best position for you, and then from there, deciding about like who you want to target from that position. So in other words, you don't want to be here, right? But you might want to be here, or you might want to be, you know, here, right? This is a good angle. So then from here, is this going to be the Tracer coming on here, or is it going to be the ball? Is it going to be the Hanzo trying to flank? You know, are the ball Tracer going to go over here, and then you're going to go for backline here? You know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily, if you're here and you see ball Tracer running all the way over here, you mirroring them might be good, but it might also be okay to just ignore them and take this angle to go for their backline because they're not going for you, right?
Right.
Because their backline's a little fragile too. Now, one more thing I want to ask as well. We didn't talk about this in your training. I didn't realize that you're on a team right now. How often do you guys scrimmage?
So far, about 2-3 times a week.
Okay, so on days where you're playing ranked, I would subtract those hours from ranked whenever you can, because scrims get a little bit more of a priority. You don't want to gas yourself out with 4 hours of ranked and then go into a scrim afterwards. That might be a little much. Just again, experiment with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. If anybody dives on main, you are ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here, like honestly, if you are here, you can mark this ball because you're gonna have Discord Harmony, and he is going to roll through you, which means yes, he can avoid you, but you're gonna be able to take at least half of his HP in the meantime. So you can see it's like even though ball is really not a target you should be chasing, if you're here and he rolls to you, shoot him. You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just take the free ult charge when I can.
Yeah,
but most of the time, I'm just looking to disrupt the Tracer because that's where like they want to play together and dive together. But if I can stop the Tracer, like force a recall out, or just in general not have her dive with the ball, then that's
right. But you see the problem here though, right? Like we had an angle and then now we've given up the angle. The only way that we should give up this angle is if we're doing what from this position?
Backing off.
Backing off or using it to go to a different angle, right? Like if you were like, I don't want to be here, actually I want to be here. I mean, obviously that would kind of suck. Like we need to go, right? But we do nothing here. Because by the time, if you're thinking about marking is all preemptive, right? If you wait to mark by the time they dive, outside of a hero like Sombra where you can force her locator really fast, it's going to be too late. You know what I'm saying? Like this Tracer needs to have been shot the second that she turned the corner. The second that she walked outside of her Hanzo and Zenyatta's LOS, she should have been marked. This is honestly too late. Like it was better than nothing, right? But it's far from optimal. You really should not be here. Because heck, you're even taking the AoE damage, right? Now we've lost the Tracer. Where are they? So marking is not done inside of your backline because by that time, they've already used their cooldowns to get onto your at full HP. If they're able to get on top of your backline at full HP, then the mark is pointless. And by the way, remember we talked about like positioning and angles, right? So if we were here on left, we would have done a better job controlling their Tracer. Case in point, right? You see? What if we were on top right? Do you see the opportunities that presented themselves from here? Maybe you don't. You see it now? That Hanzo. Even the Brigzen as they start to rotate, right? Like that's helping your team as well. But yeah, absolutely, the Hanzo is probably the priority. But yeah, it's all about the positioning, allowing you to shoot whatever you want. Like that's fine, but that's more of an int by the ball than anything else. So I guess my question is, what makes a good angle for you? What makes a good position? So we're like, we don't want you here, we want you here or here, but we don't really explain why. Why do we want you there?
Being able to contest the enemy as well as having LOS with my supports.
Right. It's not complicated. If you were the enemy ball's Tracer and you were, or the enemy Hanzo, where would you want to go to get an off angle on the backline? Here, right? Or here, right? Or here, right? Just think about it from their perspective. If you want to mark, think about what angle they might want to take. And then if they don't take that angle and they take another angle, well, guess what? You have a free lane to backline. It's either contested and you mark, or it's uncontested and you dive. That's it. Hi, Reaper. Reaper's like, no fear.
Yeah, he's pretty ballsy.
I was reviewing a top 500 Reaper the other day, and could not believe the decisions this guy was making as top 500. It was crazy. The guy's mechanics are really good, and he was just carrying like literally every other fight, and then actually trolling every other fight. It was so funny. There's nothing in between. But yeah, you could kind of see like, honestly, this is probably okay. This is probably also okay as well. But then if they've already made it under and you don't have a good angle on them, there's honestly nothing wrong with controlling the space continually and then now pressuring trading backline instead. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I want you to think outside the box here, right? Their ball tracer are inside here, right? Where you can't really chase them, right? That sucks.
Right.
However, does it suck that badly? Think about it from your backline's perspective. If I'm playing BAP Zen and ball tracer coming from this angle here, I'm very happy. You see that? I'm not getting flanked. They're both rolling from the same angle directly in front of us. That makes it easier for me to peel them off. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you've already done your job. From here now, all you have to do is continue. You can trade backlines now. You've done your job. You funneled them into a suboptimal dive before they've even dove. Good job. So just sit here on this angle, and then if they try to double back, like let's say that tracer tries to wrap around to actually catch a flank, nope. Right? And if she's not there anymore, okay, now we just shoot brig. You kind of see what I'm saying? So yeah. We don't have to like overly don't chase. Like if you watch the Hydra and Tracer review, he talks about that a lot. We don't want to chase, you know, because if like if we've done our job marking and they like blow past us or they get around us, don't chase. Sit on that position and find something else to shoot. Because the problem with chasing is it puts you in suboptimal positions to shoot, and it also will cost you your blinks.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like they will get what they want to get done anyway. Like you have done nothing to peel this dive outside of what you did 10 seconds ago, right? And then also, you're leaving, if we look at it from like a holistic standpoint, this is not 8 seconds, is it? I knew it. The setting is constantly resetting itself sneakily. The problem with you chasing here is if I turn here, you know, what was happening here while you left? Look at Brig. Could have helped with this. Look at Zen. Yeah. Look at Hanzo. Look at Hanzo. Like, look at the flank that has actually opened up. If your team dies here, who does your team die to?
The person flanking them.
Right, the Hanzo, right? The Hanzo that you opened up by not being here anymore. So if anything, that's your risk, right? And that's on you to kind of control. And that's why sometimes it's less about marking the target and more about marking the area. Because the area, if it's occupied by a target, is what's scary. If it's not occupied by a target, then the dive just isn't that scary.
Right.
It's the flank that you're worried about, not a tracer, not a ball. It's just the flank that you're worried about.
So my main problem is just tunneling for too long.
I would say it's. I think you're just misunderstanding what marking actually means, and you can even see it here, maybe. Right? We're shooting ball, right? That's marking. No, it's not. Marking is taking the angle that ball would want to shoot and pressuring him early along the way. But you did not pressure him early. He's already where he wants to be. Do you see that?
Right.
We should be here once again. If ball goes in by himself and Tracer can't take this flank or Hanzo can't take this flank, then that ball engage is going to fail 9 times out of 10. Now, this still might work. Your team might make a mistake, but you have done nothing here. You have done absolutely nothing, respectfully. Right. And if we go to their Tracer's POV, right? Look at this, totally uncontested while you were worrying about ball. And then also, I'm curious about their Hanzo. Maybe there's nothing they could have done with this Hanzo. Not really, but we could have maybe contested this space, right? If nothing else, we could have marked Tracer. Right. But you've been chasing. That's kind of
why I backed up on the bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I saw the ball go in, and I knew the Tracer was going to follow up. I just didn't really know where she was going to come.
Right, from. Right. So you had the right idea. You're like, I don't want to be shooting ball. I want to be shooting Tracer. But again, that's the right target priority. But you're still in the wrong position, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why this is so important is it allows you to seamlessly transition from marking to diving, right? So you could do a little bit of both. You need to be able to do both.
So it's like from what I can tell, I'm playing too reactive than proactive.
Yes. Prevent the dive from happening ahead of time. Don't peel it. right? Prevent the dive from happening by controlling the space that the dive wants to take to flank your team. But once they've set up, that you don't need to worry about it, right? Like right here, if we contest this flank here and shoot and shoot and shoot, they're going to double back and dive through main. But if they do that, you've already done your job, right? Because the dive is a lot easier to peel off and it's a lot easier to see. It's a lot easier to predict. So then instead of you going, oh, I'm marking them here, they go to main, I'm going to chase them across to main. Instead, what should you do from this position?
Taking the space that they just gave up by going somewhere
Take
else.
the space, go for backline control Hanzo or something like that, right? And it doesn't have to be here. No, you could do the exact same thing here. Like, let's say you're like, I want to play this position as Tracer. Okay, Ball Tracer try to stage from here. You're here. Mark them. If they then go over to the opposite side of the map, you've done your job. You've made them only come from one sightline, and then use this position again to go for backline and to control that Hanzo. Right? Because we saw earlier, the Ball Tracer aren't just the only part of the dive. There's the follow-up from the other angle that we're worried about.
Right.
So like right here. Do you see it? Do you see it?
Yeah.
It's happening again, right? Where, you do hold your space, but you get just a little bit distracted chasing. And at that exact same moment, Hanzo walks up from main, wall climbs right in front of us, wall climbs even further, and then this is how we die. Not Ball, not Tracer, but Hanzo. Is there anything more lethal about Hanzo than Ball Tracer? Well, not really, but it's because the Ball Tracer were contested and cleared out. This is the flank now, and we weren't even here to deal with that. Now you're here, you're seeing it, but it's like, it's rough,
Yeah. I think at that moment, I was just calling out that the Hanzo was on the roof. Or something.
Right. But see, even here, like, I know you're a little bit spooked, but I would at least be, this would be a duel I'd be taking with Pulse. Because that would help my team peel off the Ball Tracer by making it a 4v2, not a 4v3. And honestly, by going for the Hanzo as well, you're probably going to bait a little bit of Zenyatta support as well, and so that's helpful. But you see, like this, what are you supposed to do? If they can get into your team, you do nothing here. You do nothing, right? Where's your peel? You can't help with this. Like, it's just not what your hero's good at, You're the ounce of prevention guy, and then in the meantime, this guy's taking this position, and obviously the high ground's hard. It's Tracer, what are you gonna do? But not optimal. I mean, obviously some goof up there, but like I'm more concerned like our general playstyle. Okay, I'll walk out, control the space. We shoot Tracer. That's good. Oh, that's so unfortunate. That was such a good grab. Nice. Careful you don't have recall. I mean, this is what we talked about reaching, right? Like where you're thinking about peeling, right? But this is why we have to be careful with chasing. Now, if you had 3 blinks here and a recall, then yeah, go for it, obviously. Like this is the easiest target for you. But if you have to reach this far to try and quote-unquote peel or mark, all you're going to end up doing is being dead weight that your supports have to like hard pocket, right? Because he's going to have blinks, you're not. And you're going to die for that, likely. You should have died for that. Definitely going to die for that. 100% gonna die for that. Oh, that was a butt clencher right there.
Yeah, I was fearing for my life.
Like, oh, that grapple right there. I'm like, oh gosh.
It's happened way too many times where I'm low and I just get ran over by a ball.
Yeah, I can imagine. And this is kind of like what we talked about with the prevention here. Like, this is not an angle that you want to control to go for backline, but if you were to go chase somebody, now's the time, right? Now's the time. Because you can catch them before they even set up, as they're trying to set up.
Right.
But I don't want you staying here now. Now I want you going where? Well, I almost cheated. Where do you go? There's a couple of choices, to be very clear. It's not just one choice.
Probably the same place I was holding before.
Sure, why not? Just sit here, see if Ball Tracer stage from here. Puppered this guy. And the other thing is, like, you could scout. This is scrims, right? So you can go like, ball here, ball here, ball here, ball here. That's scouting, right? Really helpful, right? Or do the exact same thing here. Control this Hanzo. Make this Hanzo scared. Make this Hanzo have to rotate back towards here, so your team doesn't have to worry about getting logged from Narnia, right? That's quite helpful, right? And then obviously from there you can decide which one is better. Is it this one or is it this one? I'm not so sure. I think it depends. I think it's up to you. But that's kind of like where you can kind of experiment and be like, all right, which angle is better for me to control? There you go. Uh-oh. You see it though. You see it. Even though you're not trying to mark right now, you're like, oh, I have a really good angle. Like, I know they're gonna have to take this angle, right? But then you're like, oh, well, I'm getting, ADHD, right? It's like I gotta be doing something, and look at what happens. You see it?
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah.
You see it? And the funny thing is like, you're like, oh, the Zen dies. You did nothing. Like, you did nothing. You could have just controlled this angle from here. And then, obviously if you're like, it's completely dead, I'm doing nothing. Okay, then maybe we can, take this, or maybe we can drop under. You don't have to be married to this one spot of the map, but it's just like this general lane that you can kind of control. And then while doing this though, that has opened up, nice job by the way, that has opened up the entire other side of the map. And this has probably felt really bad for your backline, even though you're down a bunch. Let's watch. Oh, they completely muff it. That grapple was horrible. Yeah, anyway. Okay, you get what I'm saying, though.
It's actually kind of crazy to me, like, as soon as I leave, they go through, and I didn't even know where they came from.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's a perfect teaching opportunity. Not every single one of those is going to be that clean or that obvious. I mean, this is a very... black and white. A couple of examples in game, especially in rank, it's going to be a lot fuzzier than this, but at least you have kind of like the idea of what to be looking for. To me, that's important. You're crazy.
So it's less of controlling people specifically and more controlling the space.
Right. And then if you're thinking, okay, they're on Widowmaker, I really need to control that person, then that helps you to select which space you want to control. You see what I'm saying? So if we go back to first point, if I'm focused on marking, then probably I want to control this space because I can predict this is the space they're going to want to use. If I'm focused on diving, then I'm probably going to be using this space because I want to go more for backline. You see that? And then the same thing goes here. If I'm diving, maybe here, unless they go high ground. If marking, maybe here, something like that, something to consider. And that's where like the experience is going to come, because you're going to start to have a better idea of like where those positions are.
And so the playstyle depends on if the space is being contested or not. Sure.
Because you're very happy with contested space. There isn't a 1v1 in the game that you're unhappy about, right? I think there's, like if you were playing with versus a Zenyatta with a pocket tracer who was perma-hunting you and you had like a Moira, but even then, like, you would still be taking 2 resources for 1, right? I think it's more about finding like what's the best position for controlling space and then doing the best that you can with that. So think about it, like if I'm playing with a Moira, I'm probably playing more for dive, so then that changes the position that I want to hold. It's complicated, but as long as you have the right idea, you can at least start to experiment.
I think just playing Tracer makes me a little bit antsy. Like I need to be shooting at something or like getting somewhere instead of actually like controlling space.
Well, it's hard because a lot of the other hit scan heroes, you have a certain range to where, unless you're playing like into a Widowmaker, then to where you can kind of just be doing stuff almost all the time, Right. Tracer, a little less so. You're a little bit more all or nothing, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all coming out of the same angle right now, right? So now you just need to set up a crossfire. So like if you see them all 5 coming out here, you can do, well, what can you do? You tell me.
Go up that ramp right side, probably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just sit here, just sit here and crossfire. Because it's like, if they don't control any space at all, then you can take any angle that you want. Like, this feels, you see how bad this feels for them, right?
Yeah.
Like you were marking them, at least you were kind of marking them, and then they're like, all right, this isn't working. We need to kind of go together as a team, clear out high ground as a team, but that doesn't always work out so well. Case in point. Yeah, so, this is fine. And then over here, the marking was done ahead of time. You were able to match him and use just as many resources as he was, so then he's cooked. Nice. Okay, we gotta watch that one again. we gotta get this. This is going in the montage. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all you, but it's still pretty darn good. Nice. Okay, do you have any questions so far? We'll go a couple more minutes. I'm gonna let the next person go, or know that we're gonna be just a few minutes behind.
I think the main questions I had were pretty much answered for that round. The main issues I had was for our attack.
Okay.
Because the comp changed a little bit.
Sure. So they will be quote unquote trying to mark you, right? You need to dive. So then what position is the most valuable for you to dive? Which angle?
Somewhere from behind or
Yeah.
on the side.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the
like,
angle you're choosing right now? What do you think about the angle you're choosing right now?
Well, first I was just trying to listen for what they had.
Sure. But with
So,
perfect knowledge now, what do you think about where you're at?
Probably not where I want to be.
Why?
At the current moment, because it'll take too many resources to get to the dive if it happens right now.
Will it? Well, if it happens right now, but then where are you going to go from here?
Underneath gas station.
Okay, and then what do you think about staging for dive from here?
The staircase behind.
Right,
behind
that's pretty good, right? I think what you're doing is okay for now. Get to here, stabilize. Get to here, get to here, stabilize, and you're in a good position to dive. I think versus what you're playing against, I think you would not be able to stage from here very easily. I mean, maybe, but it would be an all or nothing, right? Because do you see the range, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get shot. So then this is, again, where, like, you could do it from both angles. You could stage from both angles. So the position doesn't matter that much, but I think objectively this angle is better. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier, right? Where, like, find a good position, then do whatever you want from there. Let's say, like, you're staging from here, and your Doomfist dives, and the Hanzo drops to try and duel you. You don't even have to dive anymore. The Hanzo's dropped inside of you. You're going to win that duel. You should win that duel, right? So this is okay. And we wait. We listen. We troll.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So don't even peek here. Don't even peek. Don't even peek. Just wait. Don't even peek. 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 Good. You want to know what the answer is to this problem? Your team sucks.
Maybe.
I'm messing. No, but really, like, it ain't that deep, right? Now, I will say this. This is trolling, right? No way that you could stage easily from here. No way. Too far. Too open. This has to be objectively better. Unless you're trying to be a little bit unpredictable, but even then, no.
Yeah, playing up here, it was kind of slow because I would hear the sonic arrow, so I would it was kind of trapped, and then like the ash with the dynamites. And...
But obviously, like, from that staging, you're not able to actually get the dive that you want.
Right.
It just always comes back to positioning. It always comes back to positioning. Would this have been easier from underneath? Almost certainly, right? You could have chosen right. You could have chosen left. You could actually have gone underneath where you did earlier, stage here. And then do you see if they split like this? Now you can isolate and kill the ash if you want. So once again, if you set yourself up for success, then you can have your pick of the litter, right? You can pick anything that you want here. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you shoot. Any of these four would have been good. But because
I think it was just a thought of like coming from the same place. It was kind of like
right,
because like I already went bottom, it didn't work, and I got killed. So
well,
it's like,
but that's why you have to be really careful about that thought process, because why didn't it work?
I peeked out and got
right. You peeked out, not work, and also your entire team trolled the lobby for about 45 seconds in a straight. You guys got picked, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing to learn from that. Had nothing to do with your positioning. And then, like you said, even when you did die, is because you just peeked from here, right? The angle's fine. You need to close the sight line sneakily, and then, like, even now, like, the reason why this isn't working is because your team is dead, right? You have 3 people alive. It's not that deep. It's really not that deep. See, even this, I respect the idea, but you're gonna get shot. Just sit underneath. Just wait. Touch card if you want to, but be very careful. Okay. Where's my Winston? Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go? Just a little early, right? But even now, not the end of the world. No. See, now we could just chill and push card, right?
Right.
Because they've backed up.
Yeah, that was a little bit
That's okay.
inspirational.
That's okay. Because you guys forced them off, you know, and then now we can push card and set up for our next step. Like, really, truly, it's just finding a good angle, timing it with their monkey. Finding a good angle, timing it with their monkey. And then if they all back off a million miles away, you touch card. See? Very hard for that Hanzo. You see that? You see that?
Yeah.
He's all focused on you and he dies for it. Now we can go back to card if we want. I think going to card when they're trancing is probably the play, and then obviously leaving here. Yeah, this is fine. This is all fine. You're way overthinking this, I think. You took a good position initially. Your team just trolled, and that's it. And then from there, you trolled a little bit too.
Yeah, a little bit. It's just a thought of like sitting in the same spot, playing such a mobile character. I don't know if it's just me playing Tracer.
Yeah, but there's only so many angles you can take, right?
Right.
There's only so many angles that you can take, and if some of the other angles are objectively bad because you'll get peaked, then it's sometimes okay to be predictable. Because if something is just objectively good, then that's fine. Just do that good thing really, really well. Do it really disciplined.
Yeah.
Like right now, my concern is like, is this the best flank for us right now? Look how far we are. You know what I'm saying? Can't be. Can't be. What about here? Probably better, no?
Yeah.
Why? What are we looking for versus this comp?
Isolated targets.
Isolated targets? And what kind of sightlines are we looking for? I mean, look at their comp, right? Can't peek these guys. So if you're either peek, you're either on them or you're not. So I think here, we close the distance easier. Right?
Yeah.
Here, no bueno. So it's not that deep, you know. Like imagine, like, remember we talked about like holding angles, right? If you were here as Tracer, I think this would probably be a bad side of the map for you, right? Versus this comp, right? Now, if you were playing versus a ball Tracer and you need to mark, then all of a sudden this side of the map becomes very, very valuable, right? There's a little bit more space. I mean, this still might be good, but yeah, this is just too far, right? Just too far. This is good. Good value. Go back. 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 Yeah. Just time it with your Winston, right? Time it with your Winston. So when I say go back, I mean find the position, wait, and then when your Winston goes, you go. The problem here is you're tanking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're in, but now you're out. You see? Even just by a little bit. You want the element of surprise whenever you can. Oh, so close.
Almost.
See, even here, like, you can actually, this isn't even that bad because you're not peeking their snipers, right?
Right.
You can shoot the Sigma as long as you don't peek the snipers. Let's keep going. I appreciate the experimentation. Be careful. This is, I mean, this comp is hard, right? Like, they have to hit you hard and early. If they don't hit you hard and early, if they don't pick your Reaper or force your recall, then they're going to die. They're going to lose. Yeah. So they're doing a good job of it, but this is what their comp wants to do. Okay? Not a short enough sightline. Easy to poke out. Very predictable. Now your recall's forced, and I guarantee your Winston's about to go. Yeah, and then where are you? Ugh. 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 Pop goes off the map. If it makes you feel any better, this is... I'm getting tough on you, but this is hard. There's a reason why people play snipers on this map, right? High grounds, long sightlines. But that being said, at least you know now what you should theoretically be looking for, right? You should be looking for a short, tight sightline, but it always comes back to positioning, doesn't it? Even when you're marking or when you're diving, it comes back to your positioning. Which position is going to allow me to do that? And then if nobody takes that angle, like let's say I come here and a Hanzo appears here. I'm dueling the Hanzo. If there's no Hanzo here, then what am I doing from this position?
Taking the space.
Taking the space, and to do what?
To set up for the dive.
Right, to set up for a dive. So I'm either dueling, marking, whatever, or I'm diving. One or the other. But I'm doing it on my terms, on my timing, on the position that I want.
Right.
And that's probably it. Okay, do you have any questions?
So I think like as a player in general, I
Mhm.
tend to play like I don't know, too defensive on the tracer.
What do you mean?
So like when I would watch other people play tracer or other people give advice on tracer, it's like, okay, when you're blinking, you should you shouldn't be blinking back towards your team or whatever.
Mm.
Like looking for those aggressive plays in the moment.
Mm.
But like so like if I'm being contested in an area, I'm always usually like the one to leave because I'm scared to die, I guess.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Because if I die, then that kind of makes the
Yeah.
team fight a lot more likely for us to lose.
Right. Okay. Well, that's where something you need to self-review. When you see those situations happen, you should always be the person playing the odds. If there's a 50-50, don't play the odds. If you have an advantage in that duel, like they are lower in HP or you have more cooldowns, and you still run away, then that's something to work at, right? If
All right.
you run away and you're at a disadvantage in the duel, good job. That's smart. So for you, it's going to be about making sure that you're making accurate readings of the way the duel is going, and then making sure you're acting on that information, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the type of person that's like you're saying, oh, I tend to be a little bit too scared, but maybe those are all situations that you're running from because you should be scared because you have a disadvantage, right?
Right.
If it's a situation where I have an advantage and yet I'm still scared to take it, if that's the case, then yes, you need to work it.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah,
from what I've got from this is holding space. If they're not contesting it, take it. If they're contesting it, take the duel. But what
sure.
if I'm forced away from that space?
How and what? Give me an example. How would they force you away from that space?
Like if I'm trying to mark the ball tracer
Yes.
and they force me away,
Yes.
so I don't have that space anymore, and they
Two
just
for
take
one.
it.
2-for-1. Right?
So just look for the trade.
Well, if you don't die, then it's okay. Like, let's say you can't mark a ball tracer by yourself, right? You would need Zenyatta arm and Zenyatta support, so you want to mark them obviously within your backline on the west. That's the most, like, where are we fighting? That's the most important thing. But like, let's say that they put all of the resources on clearing you out, like you're really ticking them off. Great. You're doing your backline a huge favor. Taking time, you're taking cooldowns, taking resources while your backline shooting them. You're okay. You don't need to win that trade. You don't need to win the trade.
Okay.
It's fine. You could just back off. If they put everything into you and you pepper them and they're like, oh my gosh, they're remember what they did? The 5-man rotate on top? Like, let's say they did that right side. Okay, you guys can have it, I guess. You're like, whatever, I'm not going to win that, but that's okay. You don't have to win it.
Right.
You've already done your job just by being there because you forced them to put that many resources to open up that angle, which opens up the entire rest of the map to your team.
Okay. So just being able to commit to the space.
Right. You start there because if they want that angle, they have to overcommit to get rid of you. That's the idea. And then if they overcommit, if they put 2-for-1 or their tracer gets Harmony Orb and you get discorded, okay, fine. You guys can have it. You've earned it. But I'm going to make you put your attention and resources there to win. You're not going to get it for free. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
If they overinvest and they beat you, there's no shame in that. Just don't die for it. That's the only thing. Don't die for it. Because then you can back off, rotate to the other angle, and then, right? Just go to the other. Okay, fine. I'm be like water. You know what I'm saying? Just flow and fill where there's a gap. All right. Any other questions?
Okay. If I wasn't playing the tracer there, and I was playing more of a ranged hit scan.
Yep.
So, with the going against the ball tracer comp, do I still want to stay with like the marking them until they
pick a good sight line, but you would mark from here. You see? Or you'd mark from here. You see? You'd control the angle, but you control the angle at a range that's more complementary to your hero.
Right.
You're not going to win the duel. You're going to lose every 1v1 versus a tracer as a Cassidy like this, right? You're going to lose every 1v1 as a Cassidy versus tracer like this. But here, no. Very scary for them. Very scary.
Right.
And then again, if that angle is unoccupied, then we can then deepen and flank backline.
Right.
Same thing applies here. And then for here, a little bit trickier, right? Because maybe this doesn't work at all. Maybe. So then all of a sudden, maybe then we want to kind of play this sideline instead. But with the same idea. Because even if they go up the stairs, there's a little bit of distance, right?
Right.
So the angle, it's like, we still look at it as like a really fundamental like lane theory. I don't like saying that because it's not really League of Legends, but it's kind of like that, right? But then where you position specifically on that lane depends on the hero that you're playing.
Right.
Make sense?
So it's basically like the same fundamentals, just different.
Just interpret it differently. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Even a Widowmaker, right? Like it's a CCTV Widowmaker strategy. Like if I'm here as Widowmaker and I can completely shut off the left side of the map, that's very frustrating for the enemy team. Make sense?
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
All right, mate. Keep in touch. Let me know if you do have any questions. You can just shoot me a DM anytime. And then the replay code rule is anytime in the next month for free. You can send me a replay code with a couple of timestamps, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you some feedback in a couple of days. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, mate. Keep in touch. Good luck with your practice. Don't forget the first half of the review, as always.